Hi everybody, I'm Phil Fatika and welcome back to the Millcreek Government Channel. We are going to be discussing your health today with two people from the Erie County Department of Health. On your left is Karen Tobin. Karen is the Environmental Director. Got that correct?
Correct.
Okay. In the middle is Sue Carlson. Sue is the Communicable Disease Nursing Supervisor, correct?
Correct.
And they both, as I said, they work for the Erie County Department of Health. And the mission of the Department of Health is to preserve, promote, and protect the health, the safety, and the well-being of the people and the environment in Erie County, and sometimes even beyond that. So we're going to start with the most visible person whose job is most visible to the people. I think that would be you. Karen's in charge of going out and, you know, making sure that that food that you're buying, I got this apple with the wormhole in it here, is safe to eat, and a whole lot more, but we'll start there. What do? You go out environmentally, and you are the one that in the newspaper they publish a couple of weeks, maybe so later, they go, here's the places that we found that didn't do a good job, and here's some places we found that did do a good job.
Sure.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Well,
how do you determine that?
We have a lot of environmental programs, but our food safety program is by far our largest program. We have over 1,600 restaurants and grocery stores that we inspect throughout Erie County.
Okay, food safety.
Right.
Yeah.
They're all unannounced inspections. A good facility is inspected once a year. Mm-hmm. Problems that have a poor compliance history with us could be much more often than that. It could be a couple times a year. It could be monthly or weekly if they need to be.
If they don't shape up, do they get fined?
That's possible, yes. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of options to us to gain enforcement from a facility. A lot of times we start with education, then we may have meetings with them. Mm-hmm. But if they are still non-compliant, mm-hmm. then we can take them to a district justice and seek a penalty from them.
Now let's not pick on them too much, because in a sense, this is a kind of a snapshot. You go in and you're unannounced, and sometimes, you know, sometimes the soap isn't exactly where it should be and the meat wasn't. So, I mean, you can be a little harsh on them, but it's when the repeat offenders are making the same mistakes and they haven't cleaned them up. So, but I'm glad you do that. Let's say that I look for that in the newspaper to find out. Maybe we shouldn't go to Sue's place because, you know, just saying. You've got a lot of stuff in front of you. Does it help you do your job?
Yes,
like,
and I can show you what the restaurant inspectors use.
Yes, I want to talk about
job.
that. I know it's tough to see, but
Sure.
You hold them up.
Sure. To identify the individual.
Right, that camera right there.
To identify the individual doing the inspection, they
mm-hmm.
will always be wearing the health department hat and wearing the health department lanyard.
Yeah.
Their equipment is mostly thermometers, because one of the most important things that we're looking at is temperatures of food.
Okay.
So they have types of thermometers. Every facility and even homeowners should have thermometers to check temperatures.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Right there. Mm-hmm.
Some of these are very inexpensive, $10 thermometers. You can buy it at any kind of grocery store, mm-hmm. and they check the food along the bottom inch of the thermometer. Mm-hmm. But these thermometers are even better because they're digital and they record temperatures at the very tip of the thermometer. So they can be used to check hamburger patty temperatures, pieces of chicken, things like that. Mm-hmm. So thermometers are one of our most important pieces of equipment.
Okay.
We also use flashlights so that we can see into the corners, down in a basement, into the dark bottoms of the coolers, to make sure that we can stuff like that.
Absolutely. Stuff that shouldn't be there?
Sure, any kind of insects or mice or rats that would be on the property, looking for that too.
Sure.
And then if we find problems, we use a digital camera or our cell phones to document with photos any of the problems that we see, because if we do end up going to a district justice, then we use photos as evidence.
Okay. So that happens to about 1,600 in Erie County. That's a big number. I mean,
Those are just licensed annual places. We also have over 500 food vendors that operate in the summer.
So when you have the fairs and you have all of these people selling food on the street, and you're going, I don't know if I should go there or not, you're saying you inspect them too?
Before they can operate, we inspect every one of those food vendors the day of the event.
I like you. So. I like you. We're keeping you. I held up an apple when we started with a little wormhole in it, and Sue, we'll come to you, really.
Oh, okay.
And do you go into like supermarkets and kind of look around and say, you know, yeah, really, that should be taken out? Or do you have the power to do that also, the big chains or the small mom and pops?
Yeah. We do all sizes. Anyone who is selling or giving food to the public, we're in those facilities. And we are looking at the source of the food, the quality of the food, in addition to food safety temperatures and people's handling practices and hygiene, those kinds of issues.
Okay. Okay, Sue, it's your turn. Okay. And you don't have the flashy stuff in front of you, but what you do is just as important. Communicable Diseases Nursing Supervisor. In English, what does that mean?
It means that There is probably about 104 communicable diseases that are reported to the state. So the nurses there have to investigate all of those reports that come in, as well as we deal with sexually transmitted diseases, especially syphilis is on the rise. HIV is also increasing. We deal with animal bites, TB, and the refugee health population.
So you're a busy person too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Why is syphilis on the rise? I mean, I remember a time when you got married, you had to take a blood test to see if you had syphilis. Now you don't do that anymore. Syphilis is on the rise simply because people are more sexually active, don't understand it, don't know the signs of it?
Well, probably a combination of all of the above. The highest population right now that it's rising in is the males who have sex with males. And they have a lot of apps on the cell phones and things where they can find partners that are within like 4 to 10 miles of each other. And they have sex and they don't really know their partner's names or who they are. And there's a lot of non-use of condoms which would help prevent it. So. Yeah.
Now what about tuberculosis? That I would have thought that would have been almost eradicated. But
in developed countries, it is very low, but in the third world countries and the rising countries, there's still a lot of tuberculosis. And sometimes they're not treated fully or whatever, or they have been exposed. Most developing countries do not treat latent tuberculosis infection, which is not active disease, but it can turn into that if they remain untreated.
Huge scare last year, Ebola. Everybody was going, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? What? You know, that's part of your domain too?
That's part of, peripherally is part of our domain. Our epidemiologists have been following up with any of the travelers that have had exposure to the Ebola virus. And for a 21-day period, they have to keep a daily contact with us. So
again, it's good you work for us. I like that. Yeah. Epidemiology. What is that? Define that term.
It's the study of disease and the incidence of disease. Okay,
very important to track that data.
Oh yes,
know where
very
it's going.
important.
I'm going to reach in front of you because she has a booklet here that I think everybody's familiar with. It's about West Nile virus, and occasionally the media will talk about you're spraying for West Nile virus. And that's kind of scary. I mean, is it here? And is it been documented?
West Nile virus is here in the mosquito population. So Carrington can discuss that portion of it.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yep. Our West Nile virus program is surveillance and control. So we're always looking at areas of standing water throughout the county. So this year when we've had all these heavy rains, we're looking at those areas to see if they're breeding a lot of mosquitoes. And then if there are a lot of mosquitoes hatching into the flying adults, then we set mosquito traps in those areas. And then we send them to the state for identification to see if they're actually carrying the virus. Historically in Erie County, we have had the virus in Erie County every year since 2000.
Wow, I didn't realize.
So it's either in mosquitoes or in birds, and sometimes it's been in humans.
Wow. I noticed Karen has a whole lot of good show and tell stuff in front of her. You're talking about the virus.
Yes.
You have some donuts. Is that what it is? I can't read it.
Yes.
Dunks. Yeah.
Yes.
Hold that up again.
Sure.
Those are really interesting.
Right. We try to get people to remove any standing water on their property because there are so many mosquitoes everywhere and lots of standing water. Homeowners need to do what they can to eliminate standing water on their property or prevent mosquitoes. So this is just one item that you can buy at any of the local stores, and you can put this into ponds or bird baths, or if you just have a puddle in your backyard or a drainage ditch that does not drain very well, you put these dunks in there and they prevent the larvae from developing into adult mosquitoes.
You can buy those at a hardware store, maybe?
Yes, any of the hardware stores.
They're called Mosquito Dunks Kills Mosquitoes. Okay, I know it's tough to read that on camera, but that's what that says. Another interesting, and we'll come back to you, is Sue has the dog laws bulletin here about what you should be doing if you have a pet. And sometimes the pets are running around, and they shouldn't be, we know that. But they also can become bitten by animals that are rabid, and that's where you come in, because you got a nifty program where you drop something out of the air for raccoons, is it?
Yes, we work with the USDA Wildlife Services branch, and they actually use low-flying airplanes in late August, early September every year to drop their thin foil-looking sachets that have a raccoon rabies vaccine inside the little packet, and they're dropped from an airplane.
And they know to pick it up and eat it?
It is covered in a really smelly fish coating.
Oh, they love that.
Attracts them.
Yeah.
Right, the scent is what attracts the raccoons, and then they eat the packet, and then they consume the vaccine, which makes them then vaccinated against the rabies.
That's a cool idea.
Right.
Now, you mentioned something too about if people find this, they are supposed to put it back because it's don't throw it away. There's something on it. It says this is from the health department on it.
Correct.
Yeah.
The little packets, they really are silver in color, and it'll be, again, the end of August, beginning of September that they'll be dropped. So they'll end up anywhere along the western portion of the county, about a 10-mile wide swath along the Pennsylvania-Ohio line. And if you find them, don't touch them. Leave them out there in nature where the raccoons can find them. If your pet does get them, don't rip it from their mouth. You know, try to use a glove or use a paper towel or something to take it from your pet, throw it back outside. If somebody does come in contact with them, there's a phone number on the packet that asks you to contact the health department, and we can tell you about washing your hands properly, watching the area for any kind of irritation if you had a cut or a sore that you were exposed to.
Now, we've been saying call the phone, call the health department. What's the phone number? What's the website? I mean, it's very easy to get to, either one of you or both. Phone number?
451-6711 will get you to the animal bite nurse who's there for 8 hours every day, or 7.5 on the phone. So.
And what about a website?
www.ecdh.org.
Erie County Department of Health.org, ECDH. Speaking of pets, this is the one on dog laws. We're over in this camera here. So what should I know about dog laws? First of all, I need a license. Oh, you're such a killjoy. My buddy's a good dog. He won't do anything. Come on. He might nibble you a little bit and bite you, but he's okay. Well, go ahead.
You need a license, and all dogs and inside cats do need to have a rabies vaccine. So first one is good for a year. After that, they're usually good for 3 years, but it depends on the vaccine.
Is that on a rise here? You find a lot of pets contracting?
Well, in Pennsylvania, there have been a couple dogs this year. It varies from year to year what animals. We've had skunks, horses, dogs, cats, bats, a variety. In the fall time, bats are a big problem.
Really?
Coming into the houses, yeah.
They seem to come into the eaves and find their ways into the third floor roofs or something like that.
Oh, yes,
you know?
Any little hole.
Yeah, and you don't want to do what with a bat, because you never know. I mean, they could be quite dirty. I don't know.
Well, if you're going to touch it,
do I call you, I guess, is my ultimate bottom question.
If you have a bat in the house, we encourage the person to catch it using some kind of a container. Always wear gloves, no matter if you're touching birds, bats, whatever. Or wild animals. People have a tendency to touch wild animals without gloves on. And they're also can be a vector of rabies. So, and rabies is, it's out there. People think it's not, but it is out there. We've had cats this year in Erie County, a few cats and foxes.
I get bit. I don't know if the thing that bit me running around the street has rabies or not. What do? I call or just go home and go, nah, it's okay.
Well, don't go home and go, nah. Call the health department, give us, if it's a stray animal, tell us where you were bit. We can send a dog warden out to try to find the animal.
All right.
If the animal is unable to be found, then we would recommend that you would get rabies prophylaxis.
Which is a big word that means
it
what?
Means you would get 4 doses of rabies vaccine and some rabies immunoglobulin, which is the
Am I going to
antibodies.
like that?
Probably not, but
probably not.
It's better than the alternative, which would be dying.
Which would be dying. Yes. So now, how do they know that they take the animal and test it to see if it's rabid?
You don't have to take the animal and test it. No, if the animal is a pet or something, or can be quarantined for 10 days, and the animal's alive and healthy at the end of 10 days, then that's the end of it.
All right.
If it would be a bat or something like that, or a sick animal, then we would recommend testing the animal.
Right. Well, Karen's got an award over there, and I think it's time to brag about that. That blue, very pretty award. What did you win? You won that personally, the two of you?
No,
this sure you did.
Hold
it up so it's tilted toward that camera.
This is the Governor's Award for
go.
Environmental Excellence.
Wow.
And this is for the local Harmful Algal Bloom Task Force.
Wow.
The task force is made up of representatives from Presque Isle State Park, from the Regional Science Consortium, Department of Environmental Protection, from the Health Department, local agencies and Pennsylvania Sea Grant who work together to write a strategy on what we should do if we have harmful algal blooms.
This is big.
In our area.
You see this, and I saw something the other day in the news that said the conditions are ripe in the western part of Lake Erie that this is coming again because of so much runoff. help me here.
Sure, yep.
Yeah, this is a huge thing because this can be harmful to humans.
Right. When we have a lot of heavy rains, it causes a lot of runoff water from the surface of the ground, and that carries with it nutrients that are high in phosphorus and nitrates, which is perfect when it flows into a body of water. It creates great living conditions for algae.
Okay.
And there are blue-green algae. They're called cyanobacteria that when they grow, they can produce toxins, and it's those toxins that we're worried about.
Okay.
So the western end of Lake Erie over the last several years has had huge algae blooms, so much so that last year the city of Toledo could not use their drinking water supply.
I remember that.
So we want to be proactive in this area so that if we start having toxic blooms in our area, what do? So we created a strategy that we won the award for. So we really turned to Ohio experts because they're way ahead of the game. They're dealing with this issue, and they helped us create pamphlets and brochures and signs. And we have local biologists who, on a weekly basis, sample locations along the lakefront and throughout the bay and various marinas looking for these algae outbreaks. And if we have an area of high algae growth, then we take a sample and we test for the toxins. And if the toxins are present, then we would put warning signs in that area to keep people out.
Thanks for working for us again.
Sure.
You guys are good. You guys are very good. Hiding behind the award is the ticks.
Yes.
And I know that when we're taping this, it's warm, and people go to Presque Isle, go in the woods, and the ticks love the deer, and you give us the tick story here.
Sure. Deer ticks can be the carrier of Lyme disease.
Yes.
So that's our concern with the ticks. So we tell anyone if they find a tick attached to themselves or to their pet, bring the tick to the health department. We can identify the type of tick that it is.
Tell them where the health department is.
We're located at the corner of 2nd and Cherry.
Right.
The address is 606 West 2nd Street.
Okay.
And you can bring the tick into us. We'll identify it. If it's a deer tick, then we would educate you on the risks. Tell you to call your physician if it's been attached to you longer than 24 hours.
Okay. How do you know it's attached? Because you actually see it in there?
Sure.
Hold that up and tilt it this way, because
Sure.
the light. No, she's going to hold it because she's
that way?
A little higher.
A little higher.
There you
Okay.
go. See,
Look at that
right,
way.
no, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it says no, you tilt
Yeah.
a little bit forward. Yeah, good.
There are some ticks that are very large and easier to spot, but the deer ticks are very small.
Okay. And they burrow under your skin?
They do. Their mouth parts attached to you, and then they feed off of your blood.
Oh.
So we ask anyone after they go hiking or walking through any wooded, high grassy areas to really do what we call a tick check. When you're done walking, check your clothing, change your clothing, wash it, stick it in the washer and the dryer right away to kill any ticks. Take the clothing off before you go into the house so that you don't bring the ticks into your home.
Yeah.
And really take a shower afterwards so that you can wash any off of your body before they have time to attach to you.
So, does it itch or irritate? Does it create a noticeable mark that you go, hey, this doesn't look normal here?
In about 80% of the people, after the tick has been attached, if it actually was attached to you and had time to feed off of your blood, it gets swollen, becomes what's called engorged. About 80% of the people can develop a rash. It's called a bullseye rash. It's a big red area. That's an indicator that you had a bite from a tick, and you need to contact a physician.
And your pamphlet down there says you may check for, and this is something you don't want to get, Lyme disease. Can you just hold that up a little bit?
Yep.
What is Lyme disease? It has such a passive name.
Sure.
L-Y-M-E.
Right. It's carried by the tick.
Lyme popsicles or something?
Yep. It's a bacteria that's actually spread while the tick is feeding off of you. It can inject the bacteria into your bloodstream, and then it can flow through our bodies and give us the Lyme disease. Some people, not all ticks carry the bacteria in their systems. Not all people will have symptoms if they've even been by the tick. It has to, again, be attached to you long enough to spread the bacteria to you. You could have mild symptoms, but in some people it does, after a period of time, can cause severe problems with like arthritis, severe headache, neck ache, things along those lines. I
know that it seemed that it was a time when the Deer Peninsula had those ticks, and the guys that went out there to hunt to thin the herd said, "Yeah, I don't think so. I don't want to have that thing bite me."
Well, back in the 80s, Presque Isle was the first part that we really recognized had a lot of the deer ticks, but we get them brought into us from every area of the county, so they really are county-wide.
Okay, so let's go, your turn.
Okay.
Proactively, what's being done to tell people about sexually transmitted diseases, dog laws, the West Nile virus here? You have so many great pamphlets. I'm reaching in front of you, excuse me. Lyme disease, you have one too here. How do you get the word out to these people that, you want to be safe?
We use a lot of word of mouth. For some of the diseases and for like animal bites, we do blast facts to the doctors in the emergency room so they know how to treat appropriately and who to treat when they need the vaccine. And we also blast fax all the physicians as far as the STDs and communicable disease go, the OBGYNs, anybody who's dealing with in the disease process. We do hold a variety of meetings throughout the county with different agencies in hopes to get the word out to the appropriate people. We attend rallies and fairs, and
you're everywhere.
We're everywhere. Yeah. Wherever we can be, we are.
Are you successful? Is the public listening? Are you listening out there?
They need to listen better.
Okay.
So they are listening, but we need to get better at it. So.
What's the big bubble here? Is it the sexually transmitted diseases? Is it the Lyme disease? Is it the West Nile? Is it people don't pay attention to their pets enough, that they let them roam? Is there one that rises to the top consistently? The
fastest rising one right now is syphilis, probably, because we have more than doubled our cases within a year and tripled it from like 2 or 3 years ago. So it's rising badly. And the animal bites, we're not getting the reports that we would like to. So we need to keep educating physicians and people who get bit that they need to call us for the reports, because it is reportable.
If my dog bites you, can I be fined because I didn't have a collar or I didn't have a license?
We don't try to fine anybody. All we want to know is to protect the victim. Okay. So if the dog is healthy and happy and at the end of the quarantine, that's all we're concerned about. So that if the dog is healthy, then he wouldn't be able to pass on rabies to the victim.
I know that one thing else that Karen does is that you monitor lots that have septic systems because of the health issues involved in that. Am I correct in saying that's part of your environmental domain?
Yes.
And this would be probably mostly more in the not in the city region, but septic systems break. You know, you got to fix them. And are people migrating away from septic systems and trying to join into a sewer system, where they say, "Hey, look, I don't have the money to do this. I'm going to have to live." I'm taking your thunder. You talk.
That's right. It's really a combination.
Okay.
The city areas have large sewage treatment plants, which we also are responsible for inspecting those and doing enforcement at the large treatment plants.
Okay.
But out in the county, then most of the individuals have on-lot septic systems.
Sure.
And so we do work, we have 2 sewage officers who do soil work, make sure that homes are approved for putting in a septic system in certain kinds of soils. And if the system is malfunctioning, that means the sewage really is pouring out, probably running down a ditch and going into the streams, flowing downstream where we want to be swimming. So we need to fix any of those sewage malfunctions.
As long as you mention that. And by the way, I'm glad you work for us. you guys ever sleep? Is this what they say on the peninsula when they have a swimming advisory because they found coliform? It's coming from somewhere, and it's downstream, or we all live downstream, so we all get it sooner or later. Is that possible, that animal waste, feces, is somehow leaking into those streams and causing this, or is it just they don't know?
Well, we have a laboratory at the health department. We do all the sampling and the analysis for Presque Isle State Park and for Freeport Beach out in Northeast, right at the laboratory at the department. And we are testing for E. coli bacteria. The source of it, it's always worse after heavy rains, heavy storms, which churns up the waters.
Yes.
We do believe it's a combination of from animal feces and human waste. Sewage treatment plants that are malfunctioning and dumping sewage into the streams, that definitely is adding to the problem at the beaches. So we do a lot of studies trying to find out the source of the E. coli and study each of the streams west of Presque Isle State Park to see if there are particular problems on that stream that we can resolve to keep the water quality better.
Thanks for keeping us safe, both of you. Again, Sue Carlson. Sue is the Communicable Diseases Nursing Supervisor, and Karen Tobin is the Environmental Director. Probably, maybe what Karen's talking about, you know a lot about, because they're the ones that go in for the restaurant inspections. They're the ones that she talked about is food safety. Did I miss anything? You got about a minute to wrap up.
Oh, we
30
also
seconds.
inspect swimming pools and campgrounds and manufactured home parks and drinking water systems and clean up chemical spills. So there's a lot of programs.
You guys don't sleep.
We don't.
Susan, you have the last word.
Our facility is open all the time. We're free for any questions. There's every day for 7.5 hours. Somebody's sitting at the phone waiting for questions, and we try to keep up with everything, but it's hard sometimes. It's a challenge.
Thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Feel much, much safer. Again, Karen Tobin and Sue Carlson, they're from the Department of Health, Erie County Department of Health. They're located right there at 2nd and Cherry Street. They have phone numbers. They have a website. If you have a question, call them. Thanks for being with us. I'm Phil Fatica. Until next time, take care.
watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.